Hello, I'm Ms. Kennedy. I'm an artist in schools with the San Joaquin County Office of Education. We're in my studio space right now, and I'd like to talk to you about scientific illustrations and botanical illustrations. So before photography, when scientists, explorers went out into the field, they couldn't take photographs of things that they found. So they had to do very careful illustrations of those things. And there are a lot of botanical images that you can see. So this is a scientific illustration. Botanical prints like these are very popular to decorate homes. And they're also very interesting. So these, I believe they are daffodils. Oh, no, they are narcissus, which is a cousin of the daffodil. And here we have a variety of orange. And do you see all of that information that's in there? There is an illustration of the branch with blooms on it, blossoms on it. You see the fruit starting to develop here and here. These are the pips, the seeds. And they've actually done cross sections where they've cut into the seed to show you what's inside the seed. So this is a cross section of the orange. So it shows you where the seeds go in there. So they're scientific illustrations, but they're also visually attractive. I think this is called, these are several citrus fruits together. One of them is called an ugly. One is a clementine. So you see the difference in leaves, the shapes of the leaves, and the difference in the fruits. And it's nicely put together. It's attractive. It looks nice up on the wall. So let me show you a few more things. So you have an illustration of an apple. So this is the cross section of the apple if you cut straight across it. And this is longitudinal, lengthwise. So you've cut it in the length so you can see what it looks like when it's standing upright. This is a very scientific illustration, a cross section of the skin. I think that's pretty interesting. And this is actually a geological cross-section of the Earth. This is a poster that is available for sale online because it's so attractive and it's interesting. And we still use scientific illustration in medicine. So there you have a cross-section, a scientific illustration, of the eye. You can see how things are labeled. We don't need to get that technical. But one of the things about drawing and thinking that you're putting down scientific information is you look at it more closely. You look at whatever the object is more closely. So this is an example from my flower finder. And when you're looking at something to draw it scientifically, you will look at things like where the leaves are placed. So here you have a plant where the leaves are paired. If there's a leaf on this side of the stem, there's a leaf on the other side of the stem. But then there are plants where the leaves alternate, and it can help you tell the difference between plants. So here, do you see how the leaves alternate? There's one on this side, and then it goes up a little bit, and then there's one on the other side. They're not paired up together. So I thought we would just look at how to do a cross-section, a scientific illustration, and I have some things here to work from. So here is an orange. And to do a scientific illustration of that, I think when I think about an orange, I think about this section here as being nice and like almost a perfect circle. And it certainly isn't, right? And I'm going to do something. I'm going to count the sections that are in this orange. So I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to pay attention to how many sections there are in the oranges that I eat from now on, because there are 9 sections in this orange, which is an odd number. I'm going to pay attention when I enjoy my oranges from now on. So if I were doing a cross section of an orange, it would be best to be able to look at it. I would get the shape down, and then I'm going to put that center in, and I know that I've got 9 pieces coming out, but first I'm going to gently draw where the peel ends. And actually I'm looking at this and I see the peel actually in 3 sections. I see the bright orange outer layer, I see a yellow inner pith, and the most inner pith is very white. So there's the orange, and then you can see the pith. So now I'm going to draw lines gently. Oh. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to have to adjust. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to have to adjust a little more. Okay, so I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to look and see how it goes like that from the pith. And if I were making a scientific illustration, this would take me quite a bit of time. I'm going very fast because I'm not doing it scientifically. But by looking at it as I'm drawing it, can you see that that becomes an orange? So by looking at it as I'm drawing it, I have to look at the information, I have to process it in my brain, get the information out to my hand and onto the paper. And all that processing makes the information stick in my brain. So the next time that I go to draw an orange, maybe from my imagination, I'm going to be able to remember this and get that in there. So that's a very simple way of doing a scientific illustration. And why is it important to look on the inside of things? So here is an orange, and here is an orange. I'm going to cut this orange open right here because it must look just like the orange. Oops, it must look just like the orange I just showed you, right? It's orange. So here it is. See, it looks very different on the inside. This is a blood orange. And these are very fun to draw. So take a look at the difference on the inside. Do you see how each section is very deep purpley red on the edges and then it's lighter? So it helps to look inside things to see how they're made. I want to show you one more thing. So you can certainly do this with plants. You can also do it with rocks. So here is a rock. And it's interesting on the outside. There's lots of color, rough texture. And I'm looking at the texture and I'm imagining what kind of rock this might be. And I don't know what kind of rock this is. But I'm assuming that it is some kind of a volcanic rock just because of the texture on it. But I could easily be wrong. This rock has been cut on a special saw so that there's a cross section of it. And look at that. So this hasn't even been polished. That's just been cut. So this part here is like that section there. It's the same I think, mineral makeup. So it helps to look at things on the inside. If you've ever seen a geode, they look just like rocks on the outside, but when they're cut open, they have beautiful deposits on the inside. So here I have an aloe vera plant. And I want to show you one thing that you can get when you're doing a scientific illustration. So if you've ever put an aloe vera plant in the ground, a year later, there's lots of little aloe vera plants around. So when I dug this up, I tried to not disturb the pup that was growing next to it. And can you see how that pup, this baby plant, grew out of the root of the mother plant? So to do a scientific illustration of this, I would, and I want to make sure that that shows up, I would make sure to get the root in there. So this is one of the leaves coming down. And I see that these little stickers that come up on the sides of the leaf are paired. So if there's one on one side of the leaf, there's one on the other side of the leaf. And sometimes they look like they're pointing up, sometimes they look like they're pointing down or to the side. Okay, and I'm getting the root in here. Getting another leaf in up here. It's going to go into my orange a little bit. That's okay. Okay, now I'm going to work on down here this root to show how this plant is coming up off of the root. And again, if I were doing a careful scientific study, I would be taking a lot more time. But do you see how I'm getting across the information that this plant is coming off of the root? And I'm going to have to get more of those roots in there, the smaller roots, to show that. Another way that aloe vera reproduces is it makes these pups, these baby plants, sometimes come out at the base of the mother plant. And there is a nursery in Stockton called the Holland Dutch Nursery, and they have various plants for sale because they're a nursery, but then they have plants that they say are not for sale because they are the mother plants that they use to grow plants. And that's actually a pretty interesting place to go just to look and see what plants they have and how they grow. Okay, so here is the aloe vera, and I'll hold this up to you. Okay. So you can do this with all sorts of plants, rocks. You can draw seashells. You're not going to do a cross section of a seashell, unless perhaps you have a shell that has been cut. Some people have those. So I showed you that blood orange. So I'll draw the blood orange here. I would have to put more information in it though, right, than I have there. And I don't know if it's blood oranges in general or if it's the way I take care of mine, but the skin on the blood oranges in my backyard is thicker than on my navel orange tree. And the outer skin is a little bumpier than my navel orange. So I've got a sort of wobbly orange here. I've got this area, the skin and the pith, very thick. And I'm going to count the sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to count them again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to have to look up oranges when I'm done here, because I know this is from a different tree. I know it's from a different kind of orange, and it has 9 sections, just like the navel orange had 9 sections. So I'm going to put in the center core, and then I'm going to separate this out into 9 slices. Another thing is, when I'm imagining an orange, I'm thinking that those are perfect triangles in the sections, and they're not. They don't come to a point here. So with this, I would have to add color, or I would have to add notes. So I would have to add color to show that the dramatic difference between a regular navel orange and a blood orange. And as I would color this in, adding that information, I'm going to look and see how it's darker on the edge of the sections, and then lighter in the section. And I would color in each section separately. So if you're looking at a flower and you're drawing it and you're going, it's not quite looking like that flower, take a look at the leaves on the flower. Are the leaves in pairs, one on one side, one on the other, or do they alternate? That can make a big difference. I have to remember to leave the center fairly light to begin with on this. But you see how looking at something is important? And I would just go and keep on coloring it until I got what I wanted on there. On this, I see that the outer skin is orange. Sometimes on the blood orange, there are places where it gets a little purpley. Let me see if I've got that on this at all. See how it's getting a little red on the outside? I know that if there's red on the outside, the blood oranges are ready, to be eaten and enjoyed. Let's see, do I have a yellow? Yes, I have a yellow. Good. So I see that there's a lot of yellow in that pith on the edge. So I'm using a lot of yellow there. So is this giving you enough information that you already know that it's a blood orange? So if you've ever done a drawing of the water cycle, that's a scientific drawing. Or plant respiration, that's a scientific illustration. And sometimes I take a good look at the weeds that I'm pulling up in my yard. And if I look at them closely, sometimes they help me be able to pull up the weeds a little bit easier. I can say, oh, I see how that root goes. I need to make sure I dig from the center and get that root out. I'm going to actually, as I finish a section, I'm going to actually put a hard outline in the same color as I'm coloring in the section. I'm going to put a hard outline where that section meets the pith on the skin. So one of the things I've done with the oranges in my backyard, aside from eating them because I really enjoy them, I've been making orange syrup out of the skin. And then I add the orange syrup to some club soda, and it's homemade orange soda. And it's really good. Okay, so that's an example of what you could do for a scientific illustration. I thought I had one of my sketchbooks up here. Let me see if I do. No, but I think I've got it on my phone. So recently I bought some mushrooms from the farmer's market, and there were two mushrooms that were growing together, and whoever harvested them so carefully that they were still together when I brought them home. And I sat down and I drew the mushrooms for probably about 3 hours. I did 2 pictures of mushrooms. So I'm going to let you take a look at that illustration for a moment, and I'll pull up the pictures on my phone. Okay. So there you see the mushrooms, and there is the drawing that I did of the mushrooms. Is it exactly like the mushrooms? No. But I did get what I wanted to get, which was how those mushrooms grew together there. I think you can get a better look at it that way. So I did one drawing in color. But first I did one drawing in black and white, just using my drawing pencil. And I just liked the shape so much that I drew it again in color. So I encourage you to go out and find something that you're interested in. Acorns are wonderful. You can identify trees by their acorns. You could be inspired by plants that you find in your yard to take a look at them more carefully. And you can be a botanist, exploring the plants around you. You could be a geologist and explore the rocks around you. And I'm wondering what this is. I'm going to have to talk to somebody about this and have this identified. It just interests me too much. So thank you for sharing some of your day with me. I look forward to seeing you again soon. I hope this inspires you to do your own explorations. Take care. Be well.